for by the New World Order.
They ain't wearing Christmas!
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever the case may be, wherever you may be at. Welcome to Couchcasters. I'm your host, Jeff. This is your host, Parker, your host, Scott, your host, Murph. Gentlemen, roll tide. What's up, boys?
Roll tide.
Roll tide.
Glad to see everybody survived their trip last weekend.
Yes, no one got hurt. No one lost any limbs. All the digits are all here. We're alive and well, and we're back. We are back.
I think that's a win. Anytime all four people come home, that's a win in one piece.
Indeed. Indeed.
All right. Well, we got a big one this weekend. What do you think?
Think a lot of things. We're going to see how this goes, but I'm sure we'll get into it a lot. But I'm leaning Tide pretty confidently. I'm not sure if that's good or bad.
Yeah, me either. But
setting myself up for disappointment, that's for sure.
I feel a little bit better. Let's say roles reverse. I know the times were a little bit different last year when we played Texas. It's a little bit more uncertain at that time. I guess I feel a lot more, to your point, Scott, I feel a lot more confident in this situation than I did a year ago because of the experience part of it. So in the end, if we don't play our game, obviously we could just get run out of our own stadium. We know how dominant they can be. I mean, it's not there. Georgia's no slouch, guys. I mean, everybody knows this. I mean, they come play their A game, and Carson Beck could light us up for 350 yards. I mean, he's done it before to people. Has he done it to Alabama? No, but it's going to be an interesting environment. It's going to be an interesting environment for him. It ain't Lexington, I can tell you that.
I've been feeling progressively better about it. I mean, I still think it's anybody's game at this point. Mm-hmm. I would be a little disappointed if we just got our butts whooped for 4 quarters. And if we do end up losing this game, I think it's going to be okay. We don't need to hit the panic button. I mean, if any of the losses, this is going to be one of them. So I know there's always going to be the fans that are going to call for DeBoer's head if we somehow lose this one. But it's going to be all right. I think this game is going to say a lot about both teams' future in this season.
I don't think either team who loses this game is out of this playoff. We already know that with the 12 team. I mean, I think even people would highly consider a 3-loss Georgia team to be a 12 spot. I mean, probably wouldn't make it because people would be calling for bias, but I feel like a 3-loss Georgia or Alabama or Texas or whoever it is, Ohio State, let's say they lose 3 games. I don't think that they're going to, but things like that, it's more of like a benefit of the doubt more so. And who knows? But Scott, I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think there's a lot more known about Georgia, kind of what their weaknesses are.
Yeah.
It was all put on display 2 weeks ago. They came out really slow against Clemson. They just haven't impressed like they normally do. They don't have the depth. Kirby said it himself that they normally do. There's a lot more questions for Alabama, and I think we'll learn a lot Saturday, regardless of the outcome of the game. But if Michael Williams can't play, I mean, they're going to be tested up front. They had a lot of trouble against the Kentucky offensive line that's pretty good. You know, their defense played well, but their offense really struggled against the good Kentucky front seven, not a great Kentucky front seven. Their zone run game, which is what they've crutched on in the past and really excel at in the past, hasn't been there.
They only have ETN, right? That's right. That's only
they have ETN, but their offensive line just isn't as good as it usually is. And if we shut down the run game and all the pressure's on Carson Beck, you know, this is probably the first time on the road he's really had to play a game like this as well.
And not to knock
Carson Beck, stars align. I just think this is going to be a very, very, very difficult game for Georgia to win. Now, we could easily get gashed in the run game and then they start nailing us over the top. That could happen too. I'm not saying it won't, especially with an inexperienced secondary. But like I said, I think there's just a lot more known about Georgia than Alabama. And I'm excited to test our secondary a little bit. And, you know, maybe Georgia figured it out, but Ratledge is out too. Yeah. Could be different.
We're losing your audio a little bit.
Are we good?
Yeah, I got you that time.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to the front. Our ability to pressure Beck without having a blitz. If we can get consistent pressure from the front seven, I think that's the key, because I think Beck folds under pressure, under not like the pressure of the game, but under pocket pressure.
Well, it's just not a very mobile quarterback, and last year he didn't really have to worry about that because he had some of the best weapons in the league. So, but now this year, I think you're starting to see that
offensive lineman too.
Yeah, he's had to put a little bit more on his shoulders, and I think it's shown so far.
Yeah, I think they're ripe for the picking. I think the difference, I think we have Milroe and they don't. And when it all breaks down, Milroe can dictate games with his legs if these things break down, if holes aren't there for the running game, if you know they can't get any good pass protection, whatever. You know, his
I just don't want him. I don't want him to overthink it. I want him to go into this game. Obviously, if it goes back into a pass, and if your first two reads are not there and you've got green grass in front of you, tuck the ball and run, and put two hands on the ball when you're running the ball. Don't run out here like this where, you know, they pop it out every time. But in that time, you still have to stay in the pocket too. If those options are there, you got to let the play develop. But you don't have to hold on to it for 4 or 5 seconds. I mean, he's the best athlete on the field at any given time, that's no doubt about that. So
every game he plays, he's probably the best athlete on the field.
I mean, he is a difference maker. Agreed.
I mean, Kirby's going to spy him. He's going to have a spy on him. You know, he's going to spy him. He's going to scheme it. He's going to be aware. We're going against the best. But I just think that you can't scheme for speed. And I don't think that Georgia has the speed on the edges to cover the speed we have on the outside. I don't think they have enough guys. I mean, we got, when it's Milroe and Haynes or Jam are on the field, Ryan Williams, that's 4. At any point, we could have 4 or 5 guys that can house it from 80 on the field at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know that Georgia has enough defenders to contain that speed. I think speed kills, and I think speed is going to kill.
Their offense too doesn't have that ability. So we get up early. I don't know if Georgia can crawl back and get into it quickly enough. If we go down 14-0, I still think we have that 1-2 play potential to pull ourselves back into the game.
Right.
Of course, we haven't been tested by a passer. We've already addressed that, all season, a true pocket passer. That is a good pocket passer like Carson Beck. But I don't know. I think the more I think about it, there's a lot of advantages in our favor. But Georgia's Georgia, so.
Yeah, defense is Kirby Smart's.
Better bring it.
They're going to have the scheme, no doubt. That they're going to have the right scheme, for to defend Millie. But I think speed is going to be the difference, and I think at the end we'll just be too fast.
Mm-hmm.
I just really haven't seen any explosiveness from Georgia. Like even with us, we'll have spurts of like Ryan Williams just absolutely dominating the field, and I just haven't seen that with Georgia. It's almost like a slog.
Well, the thing is, I'm glad you pointed that out, because what you see with Georgia is old Alabama.
Yeah.
That's literally punch you in the mouth, grind the game down, let your defense, take control of the game. And I saw a post earlier today, actually. Someone said, you're going to see the two different types of, Georgia is Alabama in their own image. They have a couple different things, but Kirby Smart, he learned from the best. And, he's won himself a couple national titles now, too. So he's spoken for himself, too. With this new era, we're talking about explosiveness with this offense. So it's a new thing. It's going to be interesting to see how this new Alabama can compete with that gritty, that Saban-style defense. It's really Kirby's defense now, obviously, because Saban's gone. But you get what I'm saying.
I guess I haven't thought about it that way. We're basically getting two mindsets.
Yes.
One's very defensive mindset, one's very offensive mindset. So that's actually kind of interesting.
It kind of goes back to what Cameron said. I know he hasn't been on in a while, but he's spoken about this in conversation. He's like, wanted an offensive-minded coach. And I think, Jeff, you may have said this before, too. We've had the defensive-minded coaches, and yes, it has worked out well, but we need some that with today's game, how successful you are relies on how good your quarterback play is. There's no doubt about it. And everything else, obviously you got to have the tools around him to be successful. Obviously you got to have a good O-line. You got to have good skill players. If you don't have those, you're not going to be as successful, but it comes down to it. If y'all are, if it's all straight down the line, it's going to come to that quarterback position, decision-making, critical thinking, in high pressure situations. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And as I think Fonzie, you had stated that Jeff, it may have been you too. So I'm sorry, I briefly dipped out there for a bit. That Beck folds under pressure, not just under the pressure of the game, but pocket pressure. And he'll start forcing stuff, which I did, when looking back at last year, I did see that quite a bit. Now they dominated pretty much everybody they played until they played us. But yeah, put pressure on him. And I think we're gonna have to blitz him some, because I don't think we're there yet. That's our speed on the D line yet. We're getting there, and maybe by the end of the season we'll be able to blitz, blitz without having to blitz our linebackers. I don't know.
Obviously we blitz some just to mix it up, just to throw stuff at them differently. But I didn't want to have to do it like every play. We have to blitz some way to get pressure, like we've had to in the past.
And I think I misspoke. I said blitz without linebackers. I meant put pressure on the quarterback or the D line and everything. Without
Overton's a big key. Overton played really good against Wisconsin. If he can play anywhere close to that level Saturday, that's big.
Tim Keenan, Tim Smith, need all three of those guys to put pressure on this offensive line of Georgia.
And attack the right guard with Ratledge out. Just throw something at him early.
Yeah, I agree.
See what he's got.
See what he's got. See if he can step up.
I think it's a freshman on the depth chart. I know they have experience on the interior line with some other guys, but I think the guy behind him was a true freshman. If that's the case,
we saw how that panned out against for us for USF, our redshirt freshman, but
not well
at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, this type of game you come to Alabama for as a player and a coach. So I'm really looking forward. I hope, God dang, like hell, Brian Denny brings the noise. Like I've said at times, it's the quietest 100,000 seat stadium I've ever heard or not heard. If you catch my drift,
I think this will be one that
I hope
you'll hear because there's so many other factors. I mean, it's a huge game. It's a huge game, but there's so many things. I mean, other outliers that are going to affect this game. People who are going to be there. I mean, good Lord, the former president of the United States is going to be there. That's a headache in itself. Not because just for all the stuff you've got to go through for him to be there, the security and all the different stuff you're going to have to be there. I mean, there's that on fans' minds, and there's a lot of uncertainty. I won't get political, but there's a lot of uncertainty in times right now. I mean, people can get scared. So, I mean, yeah, that's another of those factors. But college game day is going to be there. I mean, basically, if you're in the sports media of any type, this is where you're going to be this weekend. I've heard rumors this is as big of a game as the 2011 game of the century versus Alabama and LSU. Everybody knows the result of that game, but everybody remembers the result at the end of the year. So yeah, it's got that kind of hype level, and all I hope is that we play well. And yeah,
I'm going to guarantee it won't be another 9-6 game.
God, please no. Please no. I was at that game.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we won't have a 9-6 final.
No. Great, two of the greatest defensive performances I've ever seen in person, and yeah, that some just awful kicking, awful kicking. I mean, honestly, looking back at it, there was a time where we picked LSU off in that game, and we brought it back down to like maybe the 10 or 8 yard line, and we didn't score. That's how good that their LSU defense was that year. If I'm not mistaken, it was Mark Barron who picked that off in that 11 game. But because I saw a replay, I was watching it last. I was watching some replays last night of the Saban dynasty, and that game came up about them losing that game, and then obviously they reinvented themselves towards the end of the year and ended up winning the national title against that same team. But yeah, both of those defenses that year were phenomenal. But hype wise,
you'll see the flip. You'll see the flip of that this weekend, I think. I don't know. I mean, I picked us to win a close game, but I could see us beating their ass. I mean, I could easily see. I don't think any lead is safe against this offense. I mean, if you're 28. 4 touchdown lead, maybe something. I don't think we'll ever be down that much, but I think 10 to 14 points is easily reachable. I mean, that's what, 4 plays?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Georgia's only favored by 2.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
It's crazy. This is the first time we are a home underdog since 2007, which was the year that Ryan Williams was born. Yeah, that's pretty freaking nuts, if you ask me.
I prefer being the underdog, to be honest.
You know what? Yeah. I don't care. It's good not having the target on your back for the last 15 years. So
yeah.
No, all the pressure's on Georgia. I mean, we got a first-year coach, new offense, new everything. We're playing with house money Saturday. So I mean, if we lose, it's like, well, they were supposed to lose.
It's going to be annoying if we lose, though. I'll tell you that.
It is.
Oh yeah. Every loss is.
Yeah,
I won't be beat.
Every loss is. But the good thing is it's week 4.
Yep.
So if you're going to lose in week 4, and then you can easily bounce back, especially with the new playoffs this year.
There's no shame in losing to Georgia. I mean,
which I like the playoff idea, but then at the same time, it kind of devalues this game a little bit. For that reason, because we're like, if we lose, it will be okay, and it almost like takes away from the hype of that game. Like week 4, if we lose this, man, we're out of the playoff hunt. Like they won't, because Georgia's not going to lose again. We'll have to have Georgia lose twice in order for us to even be considered type deal. So it kind of adds a little extra oomph to that game Saturday. Whereas now with expanded playoffs, even 2 losses, you're just like, yeah, well, we still got it. We're still in okay shape. And before 2 losses, unless you're LSU that year, you're gone. 2 losses, you're completely gone.
Yeah.
So I pros it, like, as much as I do like expanded playoffs, at the same time, it just kind of takes away from, I think 12 might be a stitch too many, but
I think there's still excitement because I think it will say a lot, like I said, about the schedule moving forward, like us with Tennessee, who I see being a very tough team to beat. And then Georgia with Texas, Texas has not slowed down at all. So I think depending on how both teams play in this game, it will say a lot about the future of the season.
Now, quick, when Tennessee played Oklahoma, they were beating Oklahoma's behind for most of that game.
Yep.
Then Oklahoma put in the athletic running quarterback, and he ate Tennessee for lunch. And I think we have a athletic ability to run quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, I thought Tennessee got exposed a little in that game. And I don't want to hear they took their foot off the gas. I think they had problems with a running quarterback.
I'll add on to that. They did play at Oklahoma. We do play at Tennessee.
I'm more concerned about
the environment is we if you haven't watched this podcast, people, if you've never watched it before, go back 2 years ago and see our episode to that back in Knoxville back 2 years ago. That was biggest screw job of all time.
Yeah, but once again, I think all the pressure will be on Tennessee in that game because they'll be at home.
It will.
And Tennessee and the refs.
They got a game plan for a running quarterback too. I mean, I agree. I caught a little bit of it. I wasn't totally locked in. They got a little cut up with it.
Yeah.
No, I think that defense is extremely talented and much improved from what they've been in the past.
Completely agree.
So
I totally agree with that. That's what scares me the most is how good their defense has gotten.
I was going to say, you could be totally right. But if they're ready for it and they're preparing for this Alabama game, I don't know who they play before, if they have a bye. I think they get Florida right before us, actually.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
But anyway.
So, yes, they have a bye. It's a good call. They do have a bye.
Yeah. Although they struggle against Florida, man. I mean,
yeah.
They really struggle against Florida. But anyway, I worry about Tennessee a lot.
I do too.
Regardless of the weakness they have, because I think Nico is going to get better, and
they got explosive playmakers.
Secondary good.
Yeah,
their front seven's really good. They've put together a really solid team, and it's kind of shocked me. I still thought the defense was going to be better, but not great. But they look great. I mean,
agreed. The defense was solid, man, fast, and they got playmakers. We're talking about Georgia earlier. Don't have a lot of explosive playmakers you see jump off your screen, but Tennessee's got home run hitters, man. And that offense and that quarterback, I mean, they can hit some home runs. So
is Brew McCoy gone now? Did he? I know he had a bad knee. He's still there?
He's still there, yep.
Okay. Is he the same kind of player he was after that knee injury, or that they kind of just using him sparingly?
Still a beast. I mean,
still
they have.
Okay.
They're like 5 or 6 deep at receiver. I mean, their receiver room's good. They've been running the ball like crazy. They really actually haven't had to throw that much. Like, they haven't really showcased how good their receivers actually are because Dylan Sampson's just, they haven't really gotten to the thick of their schedule either.
They're a threat.
I think Oklahoma is maybe a little worse than we thought, but
yeah. Oklahoma gets their first taste of voodoo this weekend, so that'll be it.
Yeah.
Back to back.
They're going
Can't drop this one.
To Baton Rouge?
No, the voodoo. They're getting the voodoo.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're getting the Plains voodoo. I thought you were talking about LSU because, some Cajun voodoo, some stuff like that.
Louisiana. Yeah.
LSU don't have no voodoo. They just have a killer home environment that's hard to win games in.
Shout out to Mike West on that.
Yeah, the Auburn's got the voodoo, man. All the weird bounces and the weird stuff happens there. Oklahoma ain't never dealt with that.
Well,
they will, though.
Indian burial ground.
But does the Hugh Freeze magic override the voodoo? Because apparently
he's his own worst enemy. It feels like.
I mean, and then the guy starts talking, and it gets even worse.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a train wreck whatsoever. If it wasn't a train wreck before he started talking, the train derailed when he finished his statement. Because, good Lord,
head of Auburn PR is like, no, Hugh, no.
Sympathy. This is about as far, and I've talked with Jeff about it this week too. I actually kind of feel for a little bit for Auburn fans right now because, I was growing up. We were all growing up. During the dark years, the mid 2000s, Jeff, you were experiencing that, a lot more than we were in person, because we probably weren't watching football as much then. But we look back at it. So you told me, you were like, we've been there. We were in that situation. So I look at it as this. I was like, I only care about Auburn when we're like in a rivalry sense. When we play them, the Iron Bowl week, this kind of stuff is where I understand why they made the offer for Hugh and everything. And now a lot of people are like, well, we probably shouldn't have done that. Well, you kind of are stuck where you're at.
You can't put themselves in this situation.
Yeah, but in their defense, I don't think, but nobody else thought of this too, that he throws his team under the bus. He threw both of his quarterbacks under the bus. I was like, that's a great way to instill confidence, which goes back to the episode that I think it was Scott, it was you, me, and Jake, or it was Hunter and me and Jake, and we talked about mentality and having that trust from your coach. If you get all these derogatory statements, I just don't see how that's going to be a positive result by continuing to say, well, if we had a guy who could get it to our receivers, who could actually pass it, we're still looking for that. I don't think that was the best statement to make.
Well, the players know when it's bad. They're not dumb. They see it. They don't need their coach, their leader, to basically reiterate for them. So
not defending Hugh at all, but they do hit some big plays. And if they could just stop throwing picks, they'd probably be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
But like you just said, Murph, like quarterbacks know when they throw an interception. Blasting it to CBS Sports probably doesn't need to happen. No, it actually doesn't need to happen, and it never should. I think Hugh's a clown. He's just an absolute clown. But
stake his whole reputation on a lucky bounce the second time against Alabama in 15. Otherwise, we're not even talking about this.
But Auburn has now built this reputation of having a toxic coach relationship. And so even if Hugh is not the guy, you've almost kind of have to stick it out. Because now it's going to be what coach wants to go to this program where it's like a 3-year deal. Unless you get lucky and beat Alabama, then you'll get a $10 million buyout, apparently. It's just ridiculous.
As I said, those numbers that came out and said that what Alabama paid Saban in total for his tenure at Alabama compared to what Auburn has paid out for their however many coaches, was it Chizik, Malzahn, Harsin, and Tuber was before Chizik, so he got bought out too. And then if they were to, there'd be 5. They would say that the 4 prior to Hugh was more than the total amount that we paid Saban his entire tenure at Alabama. That right there speaks volumes. That's called just, you. I mean, that is, hey, you want to get paid? Go get a 3-year contract with Auburn for $30 million. Guarantee.
Why do you think Harsin took that job? He went up there, didn't work a lick, knew he was going to get fired, and had a $10 million buyout. And he was like, I'll take this job and be chilling the most for once I get fired. And he sure did. He knew exactly what was going to happen. Now, he probably didn't anticipate Auburn trying to drag him through the mud, his reputation and his, fidelity through the mud. But he knew good and well he wasn't going to be there longer than 2 years.
And that came out not to be true, right? That was not true. Or no one knows. I don't
know if there was any proof of it or there were just rumors, but I don't think there's any proof of it. Because if there was, maybe they could have avoided the buyout or something, a morals clause or something.
Yeah,
maybe that's why they were planning the story so they didn't have to pay another buyout, and then couldn't prove it, so they just bought him out.
If that's the case, that even makes leaving look worse.
I mean, that's the other rumor, is that they planted that storage so they could fire him for cause.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't find no proof, and so they just had to fire him and pay his buyout. And now he's tweeting pictures of him holding a coffee mug, saying 10% of life is what is thrown at you, 90% is what you make of it, or something like that. Here's to a good day. It's like his coffee mug. I'm like,
well, he's got it made. I mean,
yeah,
$15 million to do whatever he wants for the rest of his life. Unless he really
I wish I could get paid that money not to work for you.
Yeah.
Hunter, you're so bad at your job, we're going to give you $50 million.
I'll pay you not to do it. How about that?
Okay.
Just leave. All right.
I thought I was doing pretty good,
which door you want
not.
Which door you want me to walk out?
The Edo, the classic
like
Edo.
Orgeron.
Coach,
tell me which door you want me to leave out of.
Things ain't going well.
You can say that twice, Jesus.
Man,
I think we're gonna do a buyout for you, Coach. $17 million. How's that sound?
Which door you want me to walk out of?
Let's go. All right.
I think he still lives in Baton Rouge too. I think people see him jogging around town all the time.
Yeah, he's an LSU guy for sure. I mean, he's always going to be. He played there. He's now coached. He coached there, so he ain't never going to leave. Especially with his. Yeah. Oh yeah. Back in the day, offensive line, baby.
I did not know that he played there.
How do you go from that to Brian Kelly? What an upgrade, huh?
Casual.
Brian Kelly makes me laugh though, because he is like the least or the most ill-fitting, off-putting SEC coach ever, and he's at the absolute worst school he could be at as far as like a personality fit.
Yeah,
he just looks so funny wearing LSU colors.
He looks so out of
LSU
place.
Jersey.
Tries that fake Cajun accent.
It's like fantasy camp. Like it's insane. It's like a video.
His face turning all red and everything, like that pinkish red. His face turns when he's all.
And I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. It makes me upset.
The worst acting I've ever seen.
I was like, you didn't have to hit the table there to emphasize how upset you were, but you know what?
I can't believe they beat South Carolina. I mean, how South Carolina blew that game. I just.
Crappy kick. That's how they won.
Like Baylor blowing that Colorado game. I mean, how does number 8 for Baylor slip twice? Because that ball Shador threw that hit off the Colorado guy's chest, like 2 plays before the winning score, was over the same defensive back. Number 8 for Baylor. He made 2 terrible plays, and guy dropped one and then caught the other one. And then the dude fumbles in overtime going in over the goal line for a tying touchdown. He fumbles it. I was like, man, tough weekend.
That was a business decision. Somebody paid him like, we'll pay you $15,000 to fumble this ball and make it look like it was real. I mean, nothing surprises me if that was the case, if something like that were to happen. I mean, the UNLV stuff right now is just blowing my mind. But we all saw this coming, people. We try to tell you right here at Couchcasters that there need to be regulations. There need to be some kind of contracts in place, because if not, it's the wild, wild west. And guess what? If these verbal agreements, you need it in writing, kids and adults. You need it in writing, because there's your fight right there.
Well, here's my thing about it, though, is he just quit on his team.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the season. Yep. There's still season left. Like, they could have paid him during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know what the agreement is. I don't know if UNLV is saying he's lying and was asking for. I think that's the story they went with, is we paid him. He's just asking for more money.
Yeah.
He's saying he didn't get anything outside of the relocation payment. Whatever. But NFL players don't show up for training camp and get a $15 million check. I'm sure you guys know that. It's like, the fact that he did that to the 100 other kids on that roster,
but some of them hold out, right?
Good season is insane.
In NFL stuff, some of them hold out until their contract extension, their new contract is formed. They'll sit out and won't do preseason or any of that, and that's professional. But we're already here. Jeff, you and Scott, and I know y'all have talked about it too. We're here. This is semi-pro. All right. So you know what? $250,000 NIL cap, you get one free transfer, and you get an extra transfer if your head coach leaves. That's it. Fix your problems right now. Stop the unlimited transfers. Stop this multi-million-dollar stuff. Like, this is, I get you can't put it all back into the can. You can't do it. You've already unveiled it. But I wouldn't be surprised within the next year there's a cap for the whole thing. And obviously, of course, there's going to be under the table dealings when you're starting to talk with all this. But you can't go on with this kind of stuff. To your point, Scott, the guy just literally quit on his team in the middle of after the third game.
They were 3-0.
3-0. This is the first time that UNLV has ever been ranked in their entire football existence. It's the first time they're ever ranked. And you know what? Guess what? Another one. One of their running backs did the same exact thing right after he did. How about Bear Alexander from USC? Now, he is going to stay with the team, but he's not going to play anymore. Good job, guys. Good job, guys. You let it all happen. Everybody told you that this no regulation, no structure was going to bite you in the butt. And guess who get it's the fans of these schools. You have nobody to tie on to anymore. There's no structure. There's no loyalty. Now, it blows my. It really does aggravate me. It really does.
Just to be clear, too, the school's legally not allowed to just give them $100,000.
Yeah, right. It's the collective and all that stuff.
Well, the collective, and it's through different channels. They can broker these deals through various avenues, and they just may not have done that yet.
The problem is,
I just think the player's in the wrong regardless of the money or not. It's just...
Yeah. The problem is that the school can't tell a kid what a cap to his name, image, and likeness compensation would be.
Mm-hmm.
So the school can't say you can only get $250K in NIL, and the player can say, well, you don't control my image or my likeness. So my deal over here with Bob Chevrolet has nothing to do with the school. So kick rocks. I don't have to listen to you.
I mean, that could be one of those things where maybe the school, obviously there's going to have to be, the NCAA has not done anything, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not existent in 2 to 3 years, and there's some other kind of organization overlooking college football. They're going to be the ones who have the authority, and then they put that cap out there and to put it across all schools. Now, what the individual themselves does to go get other kind of likeness and stuff, that's on their own stuff. But by the schools, that's the cap. That's all you can do. You say name, image, and likeness is based on the individual. Yeah, quarterbacks make more than linemen. Certain offensive linemen make more than the third string running back, or so on and so forth. Yeah, but it's all about, you want to be a businessman. That's how you start it. You got to learn how to do it yourself, right? Build off your own image. The school ain't going to pay it. Fine. I don't know.
It's just, I can't believe the guy quit the team in third game. That's even worse than Barnett.
Yes. Yes. It's awful.
And I don't get the USC guy just taking a red shirt the rest of the year. That just seems weird.
He's a starter, probably their best defensive player.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me.
A competitive team. He was there last year. That's what I don't get. You've been around this program. You've been a contributor. What he did, he's probably not a leader on that defense, but I just assumed he was because he's a great player and he's been around that team.
I heard he was getting blown off the ball.
He's still a good player.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
I don't understand it. Regardless of if he got blown off the ball 10 times last game or whatever. He's a great player with pedigree at a good program. What are you doing?
I don't know.
It's kind of embarrassing. I don't know if I'd be interested in him coming to my program.
Is he portaling, or is he just taking the rest of the year off?
He's taking the year off, and then he said he plans to enter the transfer portal. He was already in the portal this last offseason, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
Chase the money in 2 years.
That's
Prove yourself
exactly.
and go chase the money after this year. If you're good enough, you'll get an NFL contract. You'll get drafted.
It started off as like just portaling after 1 year. Now they're not even finishing the season. Now their guys are portaling in the middle of the season, or 3 games into the season, 4 games into the season. They're hitting the portal. It's crazy.
But the
can you imagine getting to practice?
Other programs will kind of sniff that out, though. It's like, why would I want you if we have one bad game and you're just gone?
That's where I'm thinking. Like that's where the problem's going to have to be solved. Is the people elsewhere not catering to it or not buying into it, I guess, so to speak. But the problem is there's so much money in the sport, and these coaches, their livelihoods depend on it. They'll sell their soul to the devil if they have to that guy ran a 4.2 and ran for 1,600 yards, but he entered the portal because of XYZ. I don't care. He's only going to be here for a year.
I think it'll be situational based. I mean, I think the bigger name schools, they're probably, they have more of a little bit of a gap to play with risk versus the smaller schools that, obviously can't pony up to the same amount of money as some of those other schools. But to your point, some of these coaches, some of the teams sell everything and the farm to get some of the players. And I don't know. There's
also got to be like a cost analysis. Like, is it really worth all the man hours to try to convince you to come here? If I know that you'll probably just step out the door the next week, like
in 3 games,
you gotta be like, is it worth, having my employees chase you, give you all this money that you want, and then you still just end up leaving because guess what? You're not loyal to anybody.
That's why I think contracts need to be in place. It's why this is how you fix the problem. The employee, if they don't hold up to their standards, this is the agreement. It is a contractual agreement from both sides. I'm going to perform X, Y, and Z. This is what you're going to pay me for that product. You don't perform, you don't get to that limit. I just do not get it. But let's take that back to what Scott said. Quitting on your team. Just quitting. I don't believe in that. I don't care. I'm old school. I call myself old school in that way, but I have to bring myself to understand now that this isn't college football from 2013 or 2015 or heck, even 2018. This is not even the same stratosphere. And it's a completely different monster is what it is. And if nobody gets a hold of this is going to be they're going to ruin it. They're going to ruin it.
They already have. Like Jeff was saying, it's such a cutthroat industry that Matt Sluka is going to be in the portal next offseason, and there's going to be teams clamoring to get him.
Bingo.
Right away.
Auburn would sign him tomorrow.
Yeah, and there's probably about 60 other teams that would too. It's just the way it is now. To be honest, I don't think there's a whole lot of morals in college football anymore.
Loyalty?
You win at all costs. The way it is, these players are, a lot of them are unfortunately just following the money. It comes down to culture. A lot of these coaches at these smaller programs don't have time to instill a culture.
No.
Yeah.
It's just...
They're not there long enough to do it.
And the players aren't either. You have a good season in a Sunbelt school, your roster's got it.
You're going to start seeing like basketball.
Like signing a letter of intent or saying, oh, I'm committed. I don't think kids nowadays understand what the word commitment means. They're just saying, I'm committed here. And then, I saw one guy who committed back and forth to Auburn at least 4 times just this year. Tell me how that makes sense. Do you know what the word committed means? It means you are committed to that team. You're not going to go and jump ship just because somebody offers you more money. So if that's the case, and just don't commit. Just don't.
So just wait it out.
Just wait it out.
All these stupid verbals that don't mean nothing, but
they don't mean anything.
But the deal is like these kids, a lot of these guys know that they're not going to play in the NFL, that their journey ends there. So these guys are trying to maximize their value every day that they can. And in this short window, this 3 to 4 to 5 year window where they're in college, that they can maximize their value because they know in the NFL, a lot of these guys know that, after first round, the contracts teeter off drastically. A lot of them not guaranteed, and you might get cut in camp and don't get paid nothing. And, it's like, I gotta make the money while I can. So like Ryan Williams, even old enough. So does he have like a handler? Does his endorsements go into a trust fund he can't touch till February when he turns 18? Like Probably. That's what I was wondering. Like, where does his deals go? Because he's technically a minor unless he's emancipated already. Which
that's a possibility.
Be a story. But there's got to be something because his parents aren't just handling all his money. I mean, that's trouble all day when that they get into that. But
that's a good question. I don't even know.
I'm not sure what's happening with the NIL stuff, that the endorsements that Ryan Williams is getting, because he's endorsed. I mean, he's doing stuff. New Wave, all the sponsors for New Wave. Great podcast, by the way.
Yes, I love.
Anybody listening, go check out the New Wave podcast with Bach and Hollywood. Man, that's a great show.
Bachway.
They got great guests. Malachi was a guest on this past week. Man, that was cool listening to him talk.
Didn't they have Xavier Brown on there a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, he was on a couple weeks ago. Courtney Morgan was the first guest. That was a really, really cool show.
Red Morgan, too.
Red. He going to cry in a car.
Number 16.
You mean Jermaine Burton 2.0?
I saw that comment and I was like, oh, dear.
What was the comment like? This entire time, I thought I was watching this interview with Jermaine Burton or something like that.
He does look just like him.
Just like him. It's hysterical.
It's pretty crazy.
That comment made me laugh. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. It was.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish yourself.
I was just gonna say, I don't even know if there's a solution anymore to any of this stuff, though. It's completely out of control.
They're too young. They don't know any better. They don't have any guidance in this area.
All this stuff has been going on behind the scenes for years too.
Yeah.
If you don't think so, you're naive.
You're very
happening at every big time program.
You ever see the movie Blue Chips? That's pretty much exactly how it's been.
Yes, it's just now it's out in the open.
Right.
It's kind of scary, but there's no way they get a handle.
You're right. That's the big difference. Is now it's above the table, and it's like, wow, look at all the money involved in this. That now that they don't have to hide it.
Money matters more than anything, too.
Cashola, Lambos. Kids, I think Beck drives a Lambo around campus or convertible something. He's got a pimp ride.
Yep. He does. Yeah. It's out of control. There's no solution until they decide there is one. And even then,
the NCAA has no teeth either. So
yeah, exactly.
But they're done.
Behind the scenes, it's just going to be.
Well, did y'all, here's a good thing here's a big news thing. Did y'all hear about all of the athletic directors from the Big Ten and SEC meeting here in the next week or so to discuss some future? And I was like, this is exactly what we thought was about to happen, that could possibly happen, was the two mega conferences. And it starts about, college football playoff, regulation, deregulation, regulation and relegation. So, we're to the point where, there's a completely difference between the top 50 teams and the next 50. There is. And
there's programs.
That's fair. Yeah.
Top 50.
How many Division I FBS college football teams are there now? I know it's over 120.
120 something? 127?
134.
134. So tiers, you got to have the different tiers. Who's getting paid this, who's getting compensated this.
That would be an interesting thought, like soccer, European soccer, where you have regulations and promotions and demotions. If you have a crap season, you get demoted to the
I think it would work. I really do. It has worked for years. I think it would work well in this. There's so many
very
different varieties of teams. Like, I'm sorry, I love, and this is, y'all know this. I love my UABs. I love my Troys. I love South Alabamas. They're just not going to be able to compete financially and physically against some of the big name teams. It's just never going to happen. They may win 1 in 100. 1 in 100.
Yeah. There'll be an upset in there every now and then, but
wouldn't you rather go and compete for a national title in your own tier, and then maybe the possibility, if you have a couple good years, you get to go up to the next level?
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, Troy rise up, and that'd be cool.
Yeah.
My only thing with this, though, is like a lot of these, we've talked about this before. I bring it up all the time for some reason. But like teams like Kent State, for example, bottom of the barrel FBS program. They just don't have the financial backing. They really rely on these games against Power 5 opponents early in the season. Really like top 15 programs. I don't know why, but they always opt to just get their teeth kicked in like 3 times to open the year.
Keep the lights on.
But that finances their program for a good while, and they really need that money. I still think there needs to be leeway where it's not just a 12-game schedule against all of these great teams. Like, I think.
No, I agree. I think
these games still need to exist. No one's going to be really watching that second tier. Realistically, as much as you love college football, if there's all these great games every weekend,
I'm not watching any Group of 5 shit.
I don't think you're watching Tulane and Air Force. I just
no
don't.
Chance.
So there needs to be some sort of structure there. Otherwise, it's not even going to matter in college football. It's just going to be top 30 anyway. But I digress because I say that probably 6 times a year on this show. So
no, it is completely true. It is 100% true. And I do think you need to keep those games. I think it needs to be like, I don't know, for a team like that, you like a percentage rating, maybe, or a decimal rating. Oh well, a tier 3 team, which is a Kent State the bottom 50. They get a 0.35 percentage, boost or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying. I agree with what you're saying, Scott. These kind of games make these programs their money. I mean, what was it? Northern Illinois, when they beat Notre Dame, they got paid like $1.2 million, and they went out with a win. That probably funded many things for them. So there's 2 sides to everything, and obviously, we're just a bunch of couch casters here. We like to throw ideas out there and see if they stick, of course. But I don't know. The way it's going, it ain't working.
Well, that Group of 5 rules.
100% agree with the relegation delegation. I don't know if it's going to be that way. Ultimately, I think they're just going to say Big Ten, SEC, come together. Bring some big brands with them if they can. If not, whatever.
Yeah,
everyone else can go fend for themselves.
You'll see some other schools. You'll see some swap out, basically, if that ever happens. I think you'll see some schools dropped out of there and some other ones pulled in.
You'll see Utah and Oklahoma State and a couple other teams get dragged in, but anyway,
I could see them in there.
If they completely just disintegrate the FBS structure completely, I worry for college football as a whole. I don't think football was ceased to exist at Kent State or Buffalo or Memphis or Tulane or whatever, but it's not going to be as lucrative as it is now. And I think that's ultimately bad for the sport. But
yeah, the crap games that, they're win-wins for everybody. It's a win for the bigger school because, you can rest players that might be banged up, whatever. It's a win for the smaller school because they get enough money that can, buy the whole team new cleats, or whatever, upgrade the locker room or install new something in the locker room or a new they can make upgrades off this money, and then but it's a win. I mean, it sucks for the fan having to watch a 63-0.
It's the one person it sucks.
Playing Mercer the week before. I mean, it sucks but we need.
But sometimes it's sweet when you pull the upset and you get a big paycheck out of it too.
Then every now and then that'll happen, and then it's a big story. But if you get slaughtered, nobody cares.
Yeah.
When the Western Kentucky goes in there and gets slaughtered, and Mercer comes to Tuscaloosa and we beat them by 60, it's not going to, that's not going to reflect poorly on them or on Mercer or anything like that. It's and they'll take their money and go. So it's necessary. It's just a boring thing for the fan to have to watch.
Agreed.
Or go to the game, pay full price for a ticket, and all the starters are out by the middle of the third quarter, and it's a 6-touchdown game, and you're just sitting there waiting to get out of the heat.
Yeah. Yep.
So the fan experience of that is awful, but it's necessary for both schools to do that. I understand why they do that.
Yep.
And let's be honest, I enjoyed these 3 preseason games. Let Debo get in, let him get some game day stuff, let him get a game day routine, call live games, get your feet wet, so to speak, week off, exhale. Week 1 of the season starts Saturday. But the team didn't act like preseason. They took care of business. They went into Wisconsin and kicked their butt.
And that's one thing I'm happy about, and I'm glad you mentioned it, Jeff. Is we've talked about different things throughout this podcast or this episode. We talked about commitment, loyalty, playing for your team. The thing that for Alabama is, I think money's a big thing in it, but I think a lot of players that do play for this team do take pride in wearing that script A. And going out on that field and playing at Bryant-Denny Stadium. But I'll also say that for a lot of the teams too, the big name teams, Ohio State, Georgia, Michigan, those are teams where they have just been so good for so long. The tradition and brand speak for themselves. Heck, that's just pride. You wear that jersey.
You grew up watching them.
Yeah. I mean, that's just this whole thing. And obviously, we have to, take a step back and be like, okay, it's not the same. Maybe a lot of people don't think that same way anymore. I think it to an extent. It just depends on who you're playing with. For Alabama, I think it's deeply rooted about tradition and loyalty and commitment and, playing for the next guy right next to you. So that's what I love about our team. Now, there's individuals are individuals based on themselves. They make those choices, and then they go. Like the Caden Proctor stuff, it kind of messed a lot of things up for some people' opinion, of him, and I can understand why. But, that's just the name of the game now, right?
Maximize your value.
I mean, is he one of those people who is committed to Alabama, loyal to Alabama? Obviously, I don't think that's the case. He went and followed the money and then said, I messed up and probably shouldn't have done that. And he's back.
At least he admitted it.
Yeah. That's true. So, I mean, these are kids. They are kids, and we're trying to treat them as adults, but they're making adult decisions. And I don't think they're getting also the best guidance either by some of the people. Yeah. So, there's so many different
decisions. Having a lot of adults around them.
I'm glad we also had, we had our tough game with South Florida, where we were hit with adversity, and then we had our Wisconsin, where we just, we just kicked butt and walked out the door. So I'm glad we had the struggle. Let's just address it now. Don't wait until Georgia to be like, oh crap, we've got problems. We addressed it with this. So yeah, I think we're looking good. I feel good.
I do too. So before we jump out of here, prediction for Saturday, Scott.
I think Alabama covers the spread. I'm going to say 24-20.
That was going to be mine.
I think we hit the under. I was going to say 27-24, but I feel like 2 games in a row against Georgia at that score would be kind of weird. 24-20, Alabama wins, covers the spread, It's the under. It's the money line.
I'll take 27-24 then. Make it weird.
What about you, Parker?
I'm gonna go 28-17 tied.
Ooh.
I just think it'd be difficult.
I would love that.
To get 18 points. I was gonna say 28-18, but 18 is an odd number when it comes to the scoring factor of everything. So I went with 11. So 28-17. I was thinking that we might, if we come out and play our game, 10-point win is very, very doable. Could be a 3-point game, kind of like what Scott said. What'd you say?
I'll preface by saying I think Georgia scores late. So
that's fair. Yeah. Absolutely.
Maybe last 2 minutes, it's like 24-13, and they score with 1:20 left or something. But anyway.
If that's the case, I'm going to feel fantastic about this season, and I'm sure Georgia fans are going to feel a little doom and gloom if that's the case for them.
What's your score, Murph?
Well, since Scott took mine, I think I'll go the 27-24.
All right.
We got it all close. I got 28-27. Good guys. In a 1-point win. I think it's going to be a inside 3 points, 3 to 4 points, whatever the final score is. But if we come on here Monday and Bama has won 41-21, that wouldn't surprise me either because we can score so fast. So anyway, Monday night, new night for the show. Monday nights, hadn't decided on the time yet. I'm not sure what time works better for the East Coast fellas or fella, and then the national guy. So anyway, we talk about that, but we will be on Monday night to recap. Hopefully, a big Bama win. And but I think we're just too fast. I think in the end, after 4 quarters and all the dust settles, I think our speed is just going to be the difference. So,
indeed.
Anyway,
Jeff, is Way Offsides tonight? Are they going live tonight?
Yes.
All right.
They started 3 minutes ago, so you can swing over there, catch me over there, or catch the rest of them over there. It's a good show tonight.
Yep.
Talking some recruiting, talking keys to the game Saturday. So if you guys are bored, swing over there.
Indeed.
Otherwise, we will see everybody Monday. Roll Tide, Lank.
Roll
Catch
Tide.
y'all Monday.